working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus. On today's headlines. A 7.6 magnitude earthquake shook Papua New Guinea, damaging buildings, triggering landslides, and killing at least 5 people, with several others severely injured. And this week, Bangkok has received some of the heaviest rainfall in the last 2 decades. According to a report from the Star, northern and eastern districts of the capital city are now flooded, and the canal system is on the verge of collapse. A public condolence book dedicated to Britain's late Queen Elizabeth II was set up Monday morning by the country's High Commission in the Malaysian capital, with a small number of mourners trickling in to sign its pages. And number 10 seed Alexandra Ayala of the Philippines lifted the U.S. Open Junior Trophy after a 6-2, 6-4 victory over second seed Lucie Havlikova of Czech Republic in the girls' singles final at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in New York. First in our news, a 7.6 magnitude earthquake shook Papua New Guinea, damaging buildings, triggering landslides, and killing at least 5 people, with several others severely injured. Residents in northern towns near the epicenter reported intense shaking mid-morning that cracked roads and rattled the cladding of buildings. Local members of Parliament Kesi Sawang said at least 2 people had died in remote mountain villages, with 4 others airlifted to hospital in critical condition. In nearby Wau Koranga alluvial mining, it said that 3 miners had been buried alive. There are limited communications in the area, few government resources, and very few paved roads, making assessment and rescue efforts difficult. Now, small aviation companies and missionary groups were involved in airlifting some of the injured across the rugged jungle landscape. In the eastern highland town of Goroka, residents captured images of window awnings falling off the cracked walls of a local university. Now, the quake was felt as far as the capital Port Moresby, about 300 miles away. The U.S. Geological Survey initially issued a tsunami warning for nearby coastal areas, but subsequently said the threat had passed. But fearful locals near the sea nevertheless fled for higher ground, reporting that the water level had suddenly dropped. The nation's leader, James Marape, said the quake was massive and told people to be cautious, but said he expected the damage to be less than that from a 2018 quake and series of aftershocks, which killed an estimated 150 people. However, the scale of the damage and number of casualties from Sunday's quake was still unclear. State-backed communications firm Datako said it was experiencing multiple service disruptions to the operation of a domestic undersea communications cable, as well as the Pipe Pacific Cable 1 that runs from Sydney to Guam. It wasn't yet clear if there was any damage to regional airports. Now, earlier Sunday, the USGS also reported 2 strong quakes in the remote Mentawai Islands off the western coast of Sumatra in neighboring Indonesia. And this week, Bangkok has received some of the heaviest rainfall in the last 2 decades. According to a report from the Star, northern and eastern districts of the capital city are now flooded, and the canal system is on the verge of collapse. The prolonged rainfall has also led to many important roads being completely submerged in water. Reports also say it has been extremely difficult for people to commute after work. The flooding caused traffic in many areas come to a standstill, according to a report in the Bangkok Post. The Bangkok Metropolitan Administration and the Royal Irrigation Department are trying to drain the flood water off the city streets, but high water levels in canals are making this exercise extremely difficult. Meanwhile, according to the Star, the Thai cabinet has allocated a budget of around 1.6 billion baht to deal with Thailand's frequent flooding problems. 912 million baht has been set aside for water management during the monsoons and drought seasons, while 664 million has been approved for new water pumps. Relatives of victims of a fire that broke out in a karaoke bar in Vietnam in Binh Dong province, seeking news about missing loved ones outside the hospital morgue. 32 people were killed, 17 injured, according to police, with many suffering broken bones after the flames forced them to jump from the roof. Take a look.
Có chồng làm ở đây nhưng mà em trai là đi biển Úc đảo Phú Quốc qua chơi. Sáng hôm qua anh rể ở quê đem thằng cháu của anh vô đi khám bệnh cũng sáng hôm qua. Rồi chiều đi nhậu ở nhà xong rồi đi hát karaoke. Em không biết mãi tới 10 giờ 40 bên công an đưa vô trong công ty là em mới biết được.
Rồi 3 giờ hôm tới giờ mà cái giấc này mới vô, mới điện cho hay mà vô gặp mà nhận diện nhận cũng không phải nữa. Giờ nó biến dạng nhiều quá, giờ để xét nghiệm ADN với giờ nó biến dạng là không có đường nào mà nhìn ra được. Hồi nãy là có chuyện.
Now, the fire in the dense residential neighborhood of Tuan An City, north of commercial hub Ho Chi Minh City, had spread rapidly through the 3-story building. It engulfed the second floor and then trapped customers and staff as dense smoke filled the staircase. 32 people were killed, 17 were injured, with many suffering broken bones after the flames forced them to jump from a roof. Due to the intensity of the flames, firefighters struggled to enter the building and they were forced to knock down part of a wall to get inside. 8 people were found dead in the bar's toilet. 60 people were inside the 30-room bar when the fire erupted on Tuesday evening. Many employees were sleeping on the highest floor at the time, waiting for their next shift, and saw smoke creeping up the stairs. Gan, 20, told VN Express it stung her nose and eyes, trapping her and her colleagues inside the room. Eventually forced onto the roof, they tried to poke their heads through metal bars and wave their hands, hoping someone would see them. Now, the initial cause was said to be an electrical short circuit. According to authorities in Binh Dong province, the bar's fire safety standards had been checked 3 times in 2019, 2021, and again this year, and had met all the regulations requirements according to authorities. Now, police partly blamed drunken singers for the tragedy during a press conference. Police Chief Trin Ngoc Nguyen said they were drunk, so when the staff at the karaoke bar informed them about the fire, people in some karaoke rooms didn't listen. In today's other news, the Philippine Army announced that 3,000 Filipino and American troops will be participating in the 2023 iteration of the salaknib military exercise. Army spokesperson Colonel Cerces Trinidad said in a statement, quote, "The exercises will be in 2 phases and they will be held in central and northern Luzon and Mindanao." The week-long planning for salaknib 2023 took place last September 5 to September 9 at the Hotel Conrad in Pasay City. Salaknib, which means shield in Ilocano, is an annual combined exercise geared at strengthening the interoperability of both Filipino and American armies in a spectrum of military operations. PA Chief Lieutenant General Romeo Bronner Jr. earlier said the annual combined exercise is a testament to the long-standing bilateral relations between the Philippines and the U.S. that will contribute to the pursuit of a common goal of maintaining a free, and open Indo-Pacific region. Around 2,200 Filipino and U.S. Army troops trained in Central Luzon during the first quarter of this year, which focused on capability development of the 1st Brigade Combat Team, the PA's primary combined arms and rapid deployment unit. The 20-day exercise started on March 5 this year. Personnel of the U.S. and Philippine Coast Guards held a joint search and rescue exercise in the vicinity waters of the South China Sea. Take a look.
Just like I said, it's very vital for us because we come to get additional information about how they do their things and how they do our things with us. So we have this exchange of ideas how to operate at sea, especially during this heavy weather. So as we can see, may bagyo po ngayon and then we are still here outside the West Philippine Sea conducting these exercises. So it's our first time to join this kind of exercises because we just arrived last June. So this is a training for us, for the personnel, and of course for the maneuverability of the vessel and then the endurance of the vessel itself.
The 2-day maritime exercise was participated by U.S. CG cutter Midget and the Philippine patrol vessels Gabriela Silang and Melchora Aquino. A team from the Philippine Coast Guard responded to a simulated hijacking of a ship, and then it was followed by a search for missing boat crews in the stormy waters. Both countries deployed rigid inflatable boats to find the dummies, which took several hours as the bad weather prohibited the launch of drones. According to the Manila Times, PCG Commandant Admiral Artemio Abu said piracy is a high sea and universal crime where cooperation among Coast Guard counterparts is crucial to achieving success. With this in mind, Abu said members of the PCG led teams trained with the help of the USCG, Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, and the Japan Coast Guard to ensure the proper execution of visit, board search and seizure during anti-piracy operations. The celebration of the 105th birth anniversary of the late former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. in Ilocos Norte was a happy reunion among family, friends, and loyal supporters. The President said this year's Marcos Day celebration is a meaningful one as it showcases the country's rebirth, particularly those who have kept his father's memory alive. Take a look.
And as ever, it feels good to be back home. Well, I think it is very appropriate, especially this year. I think it's a very meaningful celebration of my father's birthday, because it is very clear that there has been very much a rebirth in the country. And why do I say that? I say that because those of us who have kept his memory alive, who have kept the sense of duty and commitment to the Philippines alive in all the times that were very, very difficult, and have continued to be constant in the belief that what my father started, that what my father wanted to do was something that was honorable, something that was noble, and that was service to his country and to his people. This victory belongs to all of us, not just Ilocanos, not just family members, not just the supporters, not just the loyalists, but all Filipinos. This victory belongs to. We return now, and that is why I consider it, in a way, a rebirth of the Philippines, because we return to the values that we had learned from President Ferdinand Edwin Marcos. We return to the values of honor and of duty and of compassion. These are the elements that sometimes we have found lacking in the past few years. And this is our opportunity to return it, not only to government, but to every part of our society.
In other news, a public condolence book dedicated to Britain's late Queen Elizabeth II was set up Monday morning by the country's High Commission in the Malaysian capital, with a small number of mourners trickling in to sign its pages. Take a look.
What I can say, she is one of the greatest souls on earth. And God bless her soul. Thank you so much. The sun never set in the British Empire. No, it's the saying goes. I'm lost for words, actually. Well, I can say she is really great. You know? Everybody loves her. And because of the love I have for the Queen, I'm here.
She reflects or she symbolizes hard work, dedication and commitment to her role. And that's really, heartbreaking to see her 70 years and then suddenly I wake up and I don't see her as a queen anymore. Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth II of Britain, who died Thursday at the age of 96, was a widely respected global figure, including in Asia. The record of her meetings with Asian leaders reads like a who's who of the region's modern history since World War II. Emperor Hirohito of Japan, Indonesia's Suharto, King Bhumibol Adulyadej of Thailand, Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew, and China's Xi Jinping are just a few of the national leaders she visited in Asia or hosted at Buckingham Palace. As British monarch, Queen Elizabeth served as head of the Commonwealth of former British colonies and visited many of those countries multiple times. The Asian members she visited included Bangladesh, which she visited in 1983, Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei, which she first visited in 1972, India and Pakistan, which she first visited in 1961, the Maldives, and Sri Lanka, which she visited in 1954, just 2 years after she took the throne on the death of her father, George VI. She also frequently traveled to far-flung Pacific Island nations that are in the Commonwealth, such as Fiji, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, Kiribati, and Samoa. Additionally, she was hosted in Nepal, Thailand, Indonesia, Japan, China, and South Korea. In a related news, mourners will on Monday get the first opportunity to pay respects before the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II as it lies in an Edinburgh cathedral where King Charles III himself will mount a vigil. Thousands of people are expected to line up for the chance to see the flag-draped casket at the cathedral in the Scottish capital a week before her funeral in London. Now, earlier, the cortege carrying the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II arrived in Edinburgh following a 180-mile journey from Balmoral Castle. Let's listen into some reactions.
Waited for well over an hour, but worth it, definitely worth it. It's a moment in history, isn't it? It's something that you will say to your grandkids and then they can pass it on. Nan was there when she passed over the King's Bridge. That is why we chose this particular part, was because it's the King's Bridge, opened by the Queen Mother.
You know, as a royalist, as a unionist, I needed to be here to show my support for the Queen as she passed. I had to be here. I'm honoured that she came through the city of Aberdeen on a journey to Edinburgh. It's just a very emotional moment, you know.
The new monarch will walk behind his mother's coffin in a somber procession leading from Holyrood House Palace, where it arrived on Sunday after making a 6-hour road journey from Balmoral Castle to the church. The new king will also address British lawmakers in London for the first time since ascending the throne as the pageantry continues ahead of the Queen's September 19 state funeral. Meanwhile, Prince William, Prince Harry, Meghan and Kate came out Saturday to meet the many people present at Windsor Castle, while King Charles III greeted the crowds at his London proclamation. Let's take a look.
Dito.
and Harry and Meghan.
Well adapted coffin.
And I got this one. Here.
He's having a long day. Bye everyone, thank you so much. Thank you everyone.
I think it symbolises hope. Hope that Harry and William can resolve their differences and move forward, because I'm sure if the Queen would want one thing, she would want peace amongst the family.
I mean, everyone's staying together and it's bringing the country together, even at sad times. So, yeah, I think everyone's showing how much she was loved.
And, you know, and I just like they can put things to rest and wake up and be a happy family.
Get all back together again.
Get back together, yeah. And I think the Queen would have loved that.
Hopefully they're reuniting and they're all going to make up and become a family again. Yeah, hopefully. We'll see.
Walkabout by Prince William and Kate. The impromptu walkabout by Prince William and Kate with Harry and Meghan, their first joint public appearance since March 2020, came as royal officials unveiled plans for the run-up to the Queen's state funeral on September 19. Relations between the brothers were visibly frosty when they reunited last year to unveil a statue to their mother. They didn't meet during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations in June, and more recently, Meghan told The Cut magazine in a lengthy interview that she now felt free to tell her own story, which some saw as a veiled threat to the monarchy. However, since the Queen's death, there have been tentative signs of a possible softening in the estrangement. The news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. We'll be back. Welcome back. The United States and a group of Asian allies agreed on a set of negotiating targets, notably on trade and supply chains, as Washington looks to offer an alternative to the economic might of China in the region. I feel very confident, saying that IPEF will create jobs in the United States and will create jobs in the other IPEF countries, according to U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo at the conclusion of the meeting. She said, "We were able to finalize all 4 of the ministerial statements, which lay out the full scope of the framework and provide a roadmap for future discussions." At the first ministerial for the Indo-Pacific Economic Prosperity Framework, or IPEF, officials sketched the basis for common standards on key pillars, which also include green energy and the fight against corruption in 14 countries, accounting for 40% of the global economy. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, which has since gone ahead without Washington, was hailed as a high-quality pact that offered a genuine bulwark to Chinese economic power. But with U.S. public opinion more wary of free trade agreements, which are seen as a threat to American jobs, President Joe Biden's administration opted not to rejoin that pact. Now, the IPEF brings together the United States, Australia, Brunei, Fiji, India, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. The new initiative is widely viewed as an American effort to counter China's growing economic influence and reinforce the U.S. position as the leading economy across the Indo-Pacific region. Meanwhile, the Malaysian minister visited Papua New Guinea, which also coincides with Malaysia Day. Eco Hortaleza Quinola reports from Port Moresby. Eco.
Malaysia and Papua New Guinea have established diplomatic relations since 1975 and have been expanding in many different areas and varying levels. Papua New Guinea's Minister of Tourism, Culture and Arts, Honorable E.C. Henry Leonard, welcomes Malaysia's Minister for Tourism and Creative Industry, His Excellency Dato Sir Haji Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah. The Malaysian representative is on his two-day state visit to engage with the Malaysian community for the celebration of Malaysia Day.
First of all, I'm deeply touched by the reception made by the Minister of Tourism and Culture of Malaysia receiving us. This is my first trip to Papua New Guinea. Different from what we have, and true enough, as Honorable Your Excellency D.C. Henry was mentioning just now, unity in diversity. We are also using that as the way for us to bring ourselves together.
The two countries have agreed to exchange cultural and traditional knowledge and practices, including arts and crafts. The program ends with the crowning of necklace and bilums and a hand-painted gift portrait of Dato Sri Haji. Eco Hortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
And number 10 seed Alexandra Ayala of the Philippines lifted the U.S. Open Junior Trophy after a 6-2, 6-4 victory over second seed Lucie Havlikova of Czech Republic in the girls singles final on Sunday at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in New York. The 17-year-old Ayala needed 68 minutes to conquer Havlikova, the world number 3 and reigning French Open girls singles reigning champion, and make history as the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam singles title. Ayala was playing her first junior tournament since the Orange Bowl in Florida last December. Ayala now has 3 junior Grand Slam titles, including the 2 doubles coming from the 2021 French Open with Russian Oksana Selekmeteva and the 2020 Australian Open with Indonesian Priska Madeline Nugroho. She had a career-high ranking of number 2 in October 2020 following a semi-final appearance at the French Open girls singles. Her brother, 20-year-old Michael, who plays college tennis in the United States, is currently the Philippines' leading man on the ATP, albeit at a lowly 1,506. Thank you for joining us here on ASEAN in Focus. We'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. Stay in the news, stay safe, stay alert, because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.